community like call, and I just having like a good day. So welcome to today's community call, and I'll just be explaining what we're going to do for today, and hopefully we can achieve like as much as we can within the limited time. So today we are looking at introduction to responsive web design. So from last week, if you remembered, we looked at different sections of a landing page. That was week 2. Looked at different sections of a landing page, looked at introduction to the landing page. We looked at some of the framework interface that we didn't look at last week. We designed like a section, basically like the hero section within a viewport, basically. And then now we're going to be looking at responsive web design. We are going to try to understand style guides because it's also important when you are looking at responsive web design. And then we would also look at understanding like component library. So there's no how you design responsibly without using components or using a style guide. Like it's a must if you are going to design responsibly. And then we're going to just design responsibly. So for this part, we will take design that we started with last week, and then we'll try to make a responsive version of that same design. And then we'll just continue from there. So the first one is introduction to responsive web design. So let me first ask before I try to explain. Has anybody heard about the concept of responsive web design? Like, if you have heard and you understand, can you just let me know what you know about responsive web design? Anybody? Like, have you come across that concept before? Okay, Aisha, you can speak.
Okay, thank you. So, responsive design, basically, to me, it means creating a design in a way that for no matter what device a person is using, they will still be able to navigate and see the content of the page properly. Like, just basically, like it says, responsive. So, it's responsive to the different screen sizes, whether it's tablet, laptop, phone, even smartwatches. So
Yes.
that's basically what I think.
Oh, yes. Yes. So you are very, very correct. Thank you very much. It shows that you know at least some bit of it. So what's responsive web design? So basically, because of the fact that in the world today, based on statistics, there are more people that use like mobile phones than laptop. Like I've forgotten where when I was doing my research, I came across a particular article. Let me check. I don't know if it's this one. Uh, okay, I think it's this one. Okay, yes, yes. So I think it's this one. So if you look at it, like based on this statistic, is it this one? I think I came across a particular statistic that says that, and it's just logical that a lot of people are using mobile phones because that's where like the world is going. Everything is digital, everything is online, and the first contact that people have with the internet is actually via a mobile phone. People will mostly use their phones to check out something than use their laptop, unless you get that's like the normal stuff. So responsive web design is you actually designing for different, there's what they call breakpoints. So because there are different screen sizes, you can divide like screen sizes into 3 major categories. There is mobile, there's tablet, and then there's desktop. And responsive design means that whatever it is that you designed on your, for instance, on a desktop, it should also work well on a tablet. It should also work well on a mobile device. And from the assignment that we submitted last week, it was obvious that nobody applied responsiveness to their design. So when I looked at it on my phone, it was the same thing I was seeing on a laptop, and it should not be like that. And I know I didn't cover that, and it was intentional, so we could actually build, but we're going to cover that today. So basically, responsive web design or responsive design is just ensuring that designs are actually optimized for different layout or different devices, basically. Devices such as tablets, such as mobile devices. So we divide like all you get devices into 3. There's tablets, there's mobile, and then there's desktop. And it's not just a particular size, it's a particular range of size, actually. Let me see if this one captures. Here, breakpoints. So that's how I'm saying. So breakpoints are just different sizes of different devices. So there's smartphone, there's tablet, and there's desktop. If you are used to designing for like mobile devices, the frame size that you'll be using, which will serve as your breakpoint, will most likely be like anything from like say 365 pixels to about let's say like 390 pixels, or no, from about 365 to about sometimes even as much as 430. And if you want to see that, if you come to Figma, for instance, now, and you click on frame, if you look at phone, all of all this, you can see there's even 320. 320 up to 412, like this particular section. I don't know if you can see my screen, but can you see my screen?
Yes, we
Can you
can.
see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So please, you can also let me get like some good feedback because I'm not seeing us. All right. So yeah, this is just the range of devices that fall on that phone. And we can see that there's 320, even up to like 700 pixel. This is phone. And then there's tablet. You can see tablet from 834, 744, like that, like that. And then you can see that from desktop. Desktop will start from 1280 as high as 15.1 to like 15 inches, 14 inches, 16 inches. They fall under like desktop basically. So these are just range of devices that you would generally like design for. Also, there's also watch, but because we're talking about web design, most times, a lot of the cases, you will really not open a website with a smartwatch in that sense. But yeah, people still may design for that, but it's really not a cause of concern because that's not like an ideal like case in that sense. So when we talk about responsiveness, there are many things like to look out for, to look out for. So I'll just be saying them, but we can also look at what is on the screen. Say 10 best practices for responsive web design. It says that make everything be flexible, simple. Your layout, your images, your text blocks, your components, they must all be responsive. Like, and that's why we'll get to like designing in a bit. Also, this one says that modify your images. So sometimes when you're designing for responsiveness, you would actually need images that work on different devices. So you need a big image for, let's say, a desktop. Then you need a smaller image for you get for a tablet or for a mobile device. That is you optimizing for responsiveness. So in any case, you also have to look at your asset basically. And then here it says that use scalable vector graphics. That means use SVGs. And the reason why you use SVG and not PNGs or and not raster graphics basically is because vector graphics are graphics that or vector elements are elements that are infinitely scalable. What that means is that, for instance, if you have worked in Illustrator, yeah, Illustrator is a vector like base 2. If you open Illustrator, for instance, and you zoom in on a particular shape, it will not pixelate, like it will never pixelate. Even if you zoom in at 2000%, it will not pixelate. But if you open Photoshop and you open a particular, let's say, object or an image, and you zoom in, like, let's say, past 200%, the image will break down into pixels. So they are saying that it's better for you to use SVGs, and it makes sense because you need something that can respond, that can you can scale up, scale down without losing the quality. And that's why SVG is a better like. So that means that if you are working with logos for a particular, let's say, project, it will be good for you to use the logos that are SVGs and not PNGs because it will be you need to be scalable. So and if it's going to be scalable, then it must be SVG. It says that pay attention to breakpoints. So very important. Every web page should have a minimum of 3 breakpoints, as we mentioned earlier, mobile, tablet, and desktop. So some people also use like maybe 5 breakpoints, but we can just stick to three. Three is like the industry standard. But there are times when you design for like specific like devices, let's say for a tab or different ones that are not exactly like mobile, tablet, or desktop, a particular screen size, you can actually design for them. He also says that consider like card interface. These are just more things. Mobile first design. Some people, this is a school of thought that and what they are trying to say in mobile first approach is that when you are designing, start from mobile and then go to desktop. Me or practically when I design, actually I start from what they call it. I start from up down. So I start from the biggest screen to the smallest screen because to me it helps me if I can take advantage of my space on a large screen. And then if I go to a small screen, I know how it works. But some people actually prefer that they start from a small screen and then they scale up. That one is actually based on preference, basically. This one also says prioritize and hide content appropriately. So once again, if you are designing for mobile, for instance, you would want to prioritize like you get contents that you have used that you would not want to show. There's what they call progressive disclosure. Yes, as you can see here. Designers can also use progressive disclosure to hide non-critical content and information for a cleaner, more minimalist user interface. So progressive disclosure is just you trying to show information. I don't know if you have come across a particular, let's say, a section of a website, and they will tell you to read more. I don't know if anybody has seen anything like that on a mobile device. They will say read more. Has anybody come across anything like that before?
Yes.
They will say read. I'm trying to open a website so we can see what I'm saying.
Yes.
All right, let me open this website. Okay. So can we see this website that I have opened?
Yes, we can see.
All right, so I actually designed this website. That's why I'm opening. I wanted to show what I was trying to say. So this is the web view of this website. When I worked on this project, I actually did web, mobile, and tablet view of all the pages here. But I just want to show you how responsiveness works. So when you're looking at responsiveness, there are things that will change, even your content and your structure. For instance, your positioning of objects or items is going to change. Your navigation must change. So I'm just going to just drag this thing so you can see how it's going to adjust. So this is a desktop view, but I'll try to like drag so that we can see. Sorry, let me just. All right, so can we see my screen? I'll just try to drag it. As you can see, I'm dragging this screen. Okay, I'm not going to it. It's still not responsible. Can you see what just happened now? The image has moved down. If you begin to drag, because this is like a middle breakpoint, that's why it's not like, but if you drag it to a tablet view, you can see that the structure has changed a little bit. It's not more, for instance, this thing, there are now 3 cards. But if you drag it to the beginning, the original one, you can see that there are, I mean, it is like 5 here. But when you drag it to the tablet view, it becomes, let me see. Okay. So it becomes 3. And if you further drag it down to the mobile view, you see that I think it's like 2. Yeah, it should be 2. Let me see. So you can see it's 2. And it's showing view all. Can you see this? And when you click on view all, then you see everything. And then you click on view less. This is progressive disclosure. It means that you're not showing everything at the point in time because it may become too boring for the users. And that's why you use view more, view less. Also, if you look at the navigation too, we can see that it's not what you have before that you see home, about, all those things. We are using like a breadcrumb and we are hiding it. We are not more showing it like the way it was here, like everything here. We are hiding it, and then you can now see that you use this navigation to actually open it. Also, let me just go to this about us and show us. Okay, coming. Clicked on about us. Okay, oh yeah, okay, all right. I also want to show something again. Okay, all right. So once again, look at this particular page. You can see that this content works because this is a desktop, like you get view. Or yeah, desktop. If you go back to tablet, okay, it still works. And then, but if you go back to mobile and drag it, can you see this particular part? Please just take a look at what's going to happen now. And I keep dragging it again. Can you see that it's now showing read more? And then if you drag it to the end, it's still read more. And when you click on read more, then you can see like all the information. This is also progressive disclosure in action. So I'm just saying that websites will respond differently on different devices, and that's the way it's supposed to be. So as part of our assignment, you can look at different websites and try to open it on your phone and open it on your laptop at the same time. Then you see the way responsiveness works. Like you see where they place images. For instance, if this image is left to right, like the way this thing, we have like 2 columns. By the time you move it on a mobile device, you will not want to use 2 columns because you don't have that much space. You most likely want to use 1 column, and then you can decide whether the image will come first or the text will come first. That is up to you to decide. But I'm saying that for responsiveness, you need to actually structure things, and layout may change. In fact, in some cases, when you're looking at responsive design, they actually delete some element, like they will not show it again. Let me see if there's a use case here. Okay, look at this one now, ready to join our League of Certified Customers. And then this picture here, I think that I removed the image, but let me just check to be sure. Okay, yeah, see what I'm saying? There's no image there because it doesn't really make sense for you to still have an image and this text in this small box. So if you want design responsive design, sometimes that you not show some elements. I'm just giving us like some general like rules of thumb. Your content may change, some elements you may delete it, or it may not be there on the mobile view. So those are just things to consider when we're looking at responsiveness. So as I said, I'll skip here for now, and then we can just continue with what we're looking at. So basically, I hope that we get like an idea of what we mean by responsive web design. There are limitations, as I mentioned, with designing responsively. I mentioned that sometimes you may need to actually take out some elements because they will not work, or some interactions, for instance. For instance, we know that on mobile, there's nothing like overstate on mobile, if you can relate. Like when you over on something and you get like a reaction, you can do it because you are using a laptop, or maybe for instance, let's say a tablet that has like you get a trackpad and something like that. But if you're on mobile, there's no overstate. It means that you have to change your interactions or any interaction that you set from over to like clicked, because you can only click on the screen, or let's say hold or something like that. That's still like clicking. So those are things that you can consider when you're looking at responsive web design. The next one is okay. Before I go to the next one, do we at least have an idea what I'm trying to say? I don't know. I hope it makes sense. Does it make sense?
Yes,
Okay, I can check like other. I can share this resource, but basically, I can just check and see what they are saying. I just looked at some articles basically, and they just explained like different things basically. So the next thing we're looking at is style guides. Okay, let me I'm guessing that we understand what a style guide is, or let me just explain. Let me just assume. A style guide is like a base, like a foundation, basically. So anytime you are working on a project, you don't just work based on vibes. I want to assume. Like you don't just put a text or put something, or you don't just do like that. You're supposed to follow like a particular pattern or a particular guide. And that is what is called a style guide. So I remember that the last meeting that we had, I was showing us a landing page based on this guy's UI kit, Untitled UI. Let's just go back to the landing page. This is, let me open it, where we were looking at last week. Yes. So once again, as we can see, this is a desktop and then this is a mobile device. First of all, you notice that this text size has reduced. This one too has this text size too has also reduced here. This image has reduced. This is just applying responsiveness to what they have here. So for instance, they put like 5 logos. Now they put them two. Again, this one too, they put three cards, like they use like 3 columns. But yeah, it's just 1 column. I'm just saying that the assignment I first said was to compare different websites and look at how they design responsively. So you have an idea of how things work. You can see that even here too, see the way this place is. There's a big image here. There is a dashboard here. But on this screen now, there's only a phone. There is no dashboard. Because as I said earlier too, that in responsiveness, sometimes you need to actually delete some things like because it cannot work on mobile. This may still work on a, let's say on a tablet, but it's not work on mobile because you don't have that much space. Also, you can see that this one was layered like you get horizontally, but here it's vertically. And they are just applying responsiveness. Okay, let's look at this section. Look at this one again. They put this metric section. They put all the numbers and the image side by side. But here now, they put them, the numbers first, image next. I'm just saying that these are ways to apply like you get responsiveness as you design. So now to a style guide. A style guide is just a guide or a visual guide that contains like various elements that will help to form the foundation of any design. So if you are designing like anything, for instance, there's no how you'll not use colors. There's no how you'll not use typography. And for instance, let's say icons too. It's all part of things that you use. So, but let's just limit it to web design where we're not like really icon intensive. You shall use things like colors, typography, logos, and even some effects too. Things like shadows and blurs, grids and spacing, even grids and let's just stop here. Grids and spacing, shadows and blurs. Those are things that you can actually set up basically as part of your style guide. You can see shadows is an effect. Icons are also elements that you also use. Are also icons that are being used for like designs, like different icons. Also logos too. When you're designing too, you also need logos too. They can be part of your style guide. Also typography too, part of your style guide. Colors too, part of your style guides. So as I was saying, when we look at style guides are just basic foundation that you need to actually start up a particular project. And the reason why you need a style guide is, for instance, you want to be consistent in your design. You don't want to use, for instance, let's say red color here, then use yellow somewhere, or use green and that place. No, it doesn't work that way. You should follow a particular pattern that we can know that this website is actually there is a brand consistency to it. And if you have worked on, okay, for people that joined us during our brand at this point, you will know that having like a brand guide is also important for any brand. And it's similar to a style guide because it's a place that gives you like the foundation or the rules for how you get naturally work on any project associated with that particular brand. And it makes sense so that you can also distinguish yourself from other people. And you don't also want to be rowdy in your design and just be using any kind of thing. No, you want to actually use like a particular guide. So one of the things that help with responsiveness is actually a style guide. And a style guide will be made up of basic elements like typography, icons, buttons, some UI elements like checkbox, toggle, navigation, and a lot of other things basically. So we can just check out examples of style guide, but these are just examples here. You can see there's typography, and they also break down their font into H1, H2. These are just ways for you to enable responsiveness. H1 is like the heading one, like the biggest font size for headings. You will not use H1 on, for instance, let's say a mobile device because it will be too big. You probably want to use maybe H4, like other sizes basically. And this because you have set it, that's why you can actually use it. So these are other things, other elements, drop down, different things, calendar, or those are components basically. So that's really like a style guide, just a guide. The second one is a component library. what's a component? A component is any reusable element that you use in your design. So you can think of component as anything that you use more than once. So, okay, so let me just ask, based on how you have been designing so far, I guess a lot of us have been designing at least before now. What are some elements that you have been reusing across, like, let's say, a particular project now? As you are working on a particular project, give me examples of elements that you use more than once. Who wants to help us? Can you tell me any element that you use more than once? Like using more than one, like the same thing, but just different cases. Okay, Aisha.
Buttons,
Yeah, buttons, very
nav bars,
nav bars.
buttons, footers, yes, footers.
Okay.
What else? I think those are consistent ones. Icons also.
All right.
I
All right.
don't know. Oh, input fields,
Yeah,
yes.
good. You have mentioned almost everything. Okay, Taiwo, can you give us anyone that she has not said? Like what other
Sorry, what was the question?
the question is, when you are working on a particular project, there are some elements that you use more than once. So I say, can you give me examples of elements that you use more than once? Like I'm trying to explain component library, but I'm trying to make it more related with that. A component
Okay.
library will be made up of okay.
I know buttons, you use buttons. What else? Icons. Yeah, repeatedly you can use footers
Yes.
repeatedly and the navigation bar too can do that repeatedly.
All right. Thank you very much. So you are very correct. Anything that you use more than once can fit into your component library, and you can make a component out of it. And then there's component, and then there's variant. A component is like the parent element. A variant is just a, like the word says, is a variant of the main component. So things that will be like your component, like as you said, buttons, navigation, drop down, accordion, input, what else again? Footer, navigation. Those are things that can work as components. And then they can now have different variants. And variants will just mean different like use cases. For instance, you can have a button, then you can have a primary button, you can have a secondary button, you can have a ghost button. Those are variants of a button, or for instance, of your button, of your primary button. Also, a variant can also apply to, like, for instance, states too. You can have, like, let's say, okay, let me don't jump ahead of myself. Let's just talk about variants. There's also what they call like states. Buttons, for instance, can have like over state, click state. Those are also like different variants of that same button, basically. So well, our time is running very fast. Let's just continue. And then okay, yeah. So really a component library is just made up of elements that are reusable, and we have mentioned examples of elements that are reusable. And the reason why you want to use a component library is to save you time and to make your designing actually faster and more efficient. So as you said, imagine you're working on a project and I need to use a button like, let's say, 200 times. You cannot be creating 200 buttons because you want to use the button 200 times. You can create one and use for plenty times. You get create one button, use it 200 times. Instead of you to create 200 buttons and use it 200 times, it's better for you to create one and use 200 times. So basically, we'll just jump to Framer and we'll see how much we can cover within our time. I want us to continue from where we stopped last week. Yeah, we are still here. So this is where we stopped last week. I just tried to like just do like some things there basically. And I was saying that on Framer. So now let's go back to Framer. Now we are in Framer. I was talking about a style guide and I was talking about a component library. All those things actually apply even here in Framer. I'll just show us how to create like components and then how to do some of all those things in Framer so that we can also like apply. So basically, let's start with components. So components can be anything, as I said, anything that you use more than once. And we can make a component out of, for instance, let's make a component out of the button. So and also, as you create like components to be under your asset, like on this asset part, as you are doing things to be adding here, because I've created this ones like before. Let me just delete it. So just know that it's not here again. Let me delete these ones that are here. Let me delete. Oh, where am I? Okay. All right. I don't know why I can't delete them, but I'll just start anyways. So let's just go back to our layers basically. So for this button, for you to create a component, you can just right click and say create component. And when you create a component, it'll take you to a different page where you can now begin to edit. So create now. come, let's call it, right click on it on the entire stack and then say create a component. We'll tell you to give it a name. So we're just going to call this one button. Create. Okay, let's keep all of this. So this is a primary, like this part, this is a component. We have made a component out of this button. As I said, a component can have different variants. So normally when you make buttons, there's a primary button, which mostly carries like the brand color. There's also a secondary button, which you carry like maybe a neutral, or depending on how you look at it, you could carry a neutral or a gray, or maybe like a neutral or a gray. And there's also tertiary button, or that one could just be outline. Okay, let me just create it. So I can create a variant. Let's create a new one. For this one, I want it to not have a background. So I'll take out this background that is here, and it will just be this text. We can also create another variant again. Okay, look, for this one, let us make this one. Let's give it a stroke instead. So we're going to give it like a border. Let's just make it one, but we'll make it to be white. We'll make it maybe like 60 or 50. Okay, okay, like 50% is okay. Let's say 40%. Like 40%. So we can call this one our, let's call it, okay, let me see. All right, so this is our first one, second one. So we can call this one primary button. Primary button. We can call this one, let's take secondary button. I can call this one, let's say tertiary button. Also, so this is the concept of component and variants. Also, when you look at component and variants, there's something called variable. What's variable? So a variable is a string of information that is associated with like a component or a variant that is supposed to be dynamic. What do I mean by that? So normally when you create button, you can see that this is just a text. But for instance, there are cases whereby it's not get started that will be there. Maybe you might say get started, you may say learn more. Normally, when you make a component, most times components are not supposed to be exactly editable in that sense. If you have worked in Figma, for instance, you notice that sometimes when you click on a component, you cannot exactly change some things. Like you cannot just add anything to it. It will tell you that, oh, you cannot adjust it, X, Y, Z. You would have to go to the main component. And then the way to solve that would be like you have to create like a variant, not a variant, but like a property, for instance, like a text property, or let's say like a Boolean. This is like Figma language, basically. A text property or a Boolean, basically, or a swap instance. That's what you normally do. But in Prima, those things are called variables. So, for instance, I want us to use this button, but I want this text to be able to be changeable. Like you can change it from get started to something else. What I will do is that I will turn this get started into a variable. That means that this text can change anyhow. In fact, you can actually make a variable out of anything. For instance, you can make a variable out of an image. What that means is that that image can be changed anytime. Also, you can make a variable out of a color too. It means that that color can be changed like manually, like when you are using the component without touching off, altering with the main component. So this get started, I'll select it and I'll come here. And there's a plus beside this content. It says create variable. I'll call it plain text because it's not formatted. Formatted text is for use cases whereby, for instance, you have a blog and you want them to be able to like maybe tweak something there, like add italics or all those whatever. But now it's just plain text. So I just click on plain text. We're going to call this one button title. Okay, no. Let's call it button title. Button title. So, and then we're going to add a text area. So you can either select yes or no for text area. What that just means is that if you put yes, there will be a place in the navigation whereby you can actually write the text yourself, and then you can just type it yourself. And that is good for use cases whereby you work on project, but you don't want the client or the person to be tampering with the files because it's live. Sure, you understand. You don't want them to be tampering with the files on the design. So you can create a text area for them to just go and type and then to automatically refresh. So click on yes, and then that's all. Automatically, these ones that are here too, because they are pulling from the main component, that variable has been applied to them. And so if you go back to our home page, for instance, and this button that is here now, for instance, you can notice that, see this button title that we created, this particular variable, we can change it from get started, for instance, to learn more. And you see that when I click on enter, automatically it just changes. So let me just undo. So that's just the use case for, let me undo it. So it's now in get started. And also I can duplicate this particular button and then say that instead of you to use the primary button, let's just use our tertiary button. And you can see that automatically it's like this one that I had here before. And I'll just copy this learn more and I'll change the variable from get started to learn more. And that way is good because if I wanted to change anything, I've used this button like let's say in 200 places. Once I go to the main component here and adjust something, for instance, if I change this color to, let's say to red, for instance, red and let's say 100%. If I go back home, you see that it's changed to red. And that way, for instance, you want to apply a system-wide change, like you want to change anything at the same time, it's better and it's more efficient for you to use components and not just you get normal like standalone like elements. So let me just undo and go back. All right. So the next one, text. So when we also talk about text in Framer, you can actually create a style guide in Framer, but I'll not go there because of time. But you can create like a style guide, just the way you have like all these things set up here. You can have a separate page whereby you have like a style guide, like separate. Let me just show this particular project. So this particular project, I got it from Framer community basically. And this person created a style guide in a separate page. So you can see what I was showing earlier, like things like your heading, like your typography. Also your colors too. He also put like all the colors there as a guide so that you can select all these colors and use them like over time, like consistently. He also did a guide for layout. So things like, for instance, your margin, like your spacing. He put like a particular, like you get spacing guide because it's not supposed to be based on vibes. Like it's supposed to be like a particular guide. You can see it says that for desktop, the spacing outside should be 40, tablet 40, but mobile 24. Then it says that the padding vertical should be for desktop 128, tablet 128, phone 64. The gaps, you can see that the way the person corner radius, like he specified all these elements. And it's good because it will help you to have a consistent design that works well. So that people will not look at your design on the phone and look at it on the website and they'll be wondering if it's the same design or the same person. Like there is a disconnect. And I don't know if you have seen website like that, whereby the desktop version and the mobile version, they look very disjointed, like as if it's different people that designed it. That's because they did not use a style guide or any guide at all. So it's important that when you're working on projects, always have a guide because it always helps you basically. Let us go back to Framer. Yeah, so back here. So when it comes to creating like style guides in Framer, you can use any element basically. So this text, for instance, now, can we still hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, what I've said so far, I don't know, does it make sense?
Sorry.
Does it make sense? What I've said, like, do you understand what I've been saying so far?
Yes, it has. Yes.
So, continue from where we stopped. I will also explain how you can create like guides or a style guide in inside of Framer. So basically, although there's a more robust process of creating like a style guide where you create a different page and begin to show those elements, I'll just show you how you can do them from the like from this like your styling aspect. So for instance, now assuming this color is plain white, FFF. Sometimes too, as I said, part of the elements of a style guide is color. Assuming I want this white to be like a color style whereby I don't need to be looking for it or be entering it manually every time. I can just click on this color and then you can click on this plus icon here. That's like you're creating a text style, like a color style. And I can call this color main white. Let's just say main white. Let me say main white. And okay, let me just say white 100 and click on enter. And then this color that is here is also white, but it's white, and I use 80% of white. I can also select it and click on this plus here and say, I want to call this color white 80. White 80. And it has entered. What that means is that if I, for instance, click on this particular color, or let me just write a particular text. Let me just say, I'm a boy. I'm just going to write something. I'm a boy. And I'll just increase the size to something. Let's just say like 64. So normally this I am a boy. If you want to change the color, let me just delete this one because I already applied, but let me because I used that as the last time. Let me take it out. Let's just pick a random color. So now it's like red. Normally, if I want to change to white, I'll just select on it and then I'll write white. But now you can see that there's actually white here, white 100 and white. And if I just click on white 100, automatically I can select it as a style. So it's also good for cases whereby you have like color codes that is across board. For instance, working on complex project, you can have like maybe like 7 or 8 colors that you're using, and you cannot be entering the colors all the time. So it's better for you just create like a style here. So that when you just look at this page, you can just select all the colors that you need. And if you also look at this UI kit I'll show you, you can see this particular one. They have like different colors here, like gray, palm. So you cannot have all these colors and be cramming them. It doesn't even make sense. So you rather just add them to a style guide. And like in Figma, if you look at this place under color styles, although this one is very robust, but you can see that they added their own to here. That's the way we have it in Framer. You can see gray 25, 50, 100, like that, like that. You can see all of them here. Similar to what we have in Framer, where I have 100, 80, and it can be as elaborate as you want, basically. So that's what I'm trying to say. The next one is typography. So when you select a particular, let's say like font, the good thing or the better thing is that most times, as I said in our first class, Framer is not exactly a design tool, it's a development tool. What that means is that you must have designed it in, let's say, for instance, Figma, and you are developing inside Figma. It makes your work like very, very easy because in Figma, for instance, you must have probably designed some style guide, and you can now use those particular like figures or elements here. So, assuming you have done the mobile version in Figma, your life will be very, very easy in Figma because you just have to copy and paste what you already have and it works. But for instance, we don't have that. So if I select this particular font and I click on this font here, for instance, let's click on okay, that's this selecting the particular font. Let's click on let me see, that will be weight. Okay, no wait. Let me see. Where do we change the style guide? Content. Okay, yeah. This place that has styles. Sorry, I was looking for the wrong thing. Yeah, that has styles. We'll just click on these styles here and then you can see by default it's showing H3 but I think I've done this one before or something. I think I did this one before. Let me see. Okay. I don't know why I cannot delete this one. Okay, I think it's like some default one. But for instance, I can call this one H1 because this is actually H1. So as I said, H1 is the heading one text and it's like the highest amount, depending on how you look at it. Some people actually arrange their text from H6 to H1, like you get H6 is the biggest, H1 is the smallest. But the one I've seen the most and I use is that H1 is actually the biggest, H2 is lesser, like the more you increase in the number, the lesser the size is. So for this one, we can call this one H1. So we'll just click on a new style and we'll call it H1. And when we call it H1, what you can also do is that while this is also selected, you can go to this particular style, for instance, and click on edit. Under edit, one of the places that will help you, for instance, you can change things like the weight, the font, the color. And then what I want us to look at is this breakpoint. So normally, as I said, when you're designing, you probably want to design for mobile and for tablets. And in making your style, for instance, your text style, you can actually add your breakpoints to your text style. What that means is that, and I'll show us in a bit, what that means that, for instance, under this place that has like breakpoint under type, if I click on add breakpoint, you can see there's large, there's medium, and then there's small. By default, Framer is helping us to do medium and small, but we have to just look at ourselves. So large just means that if you're on a desktop, this will be the size. Assuming I create a breakpoint for, let's say, okay, let's just go back there and see what I'm trying to say. But you can see Framer is saying that for large devices, use 72. For medium, use 58. For small, use 46. And this is just Framer trying to help you to layer things out. And that's why it's important that you already have your design inside of Figma, because in Figma, you'll have already specified the size exactly. So when you come here, you just plug and play that, okay, well, for tablet, and which is medium, you can say your size should be actually, let's say, like 48. And then you can say for small devices, like let's say mobile, it should be like, let's say 32. And we'll see how all that, you can select all this, whatever. You can tweak the alignment and all those things, but you can just leave them. So that's it basically. And what that means is that you have created a breakpoint for large devices, medium devices, and then small devices. So also this navigation too, you can create a component out of it. Let me just create a component, but okay, call it navigation. So normally, as I said, on desktop, you have space. So this works. The next one is to create another variant. And we'll call this one for tablet. For tablet too, you also have space. So sometimes, yeah, you have space in tablet mostly. So even if you scale it down, you can see that this still works on the tablet because tablet range of devices, as we saw in Figma, is about let me see again, from 744 to about 1280. What that means is that because of we have already set up our framer well, this is about 789. So we can still have all this. What we can just do is that we can reduce the padding. So we can see that this one is okay. Let me just show the stacks. We can see that the padding here we have right 80, we have left 80. For tablet, you may want to say right, let's say like 40. Okay, let's say like 40. And then you can say left like let's say like 40. You remember that in one of all these elements, one of those articles, let me check which one of them. They mentioned something about using, okay, I don't know if it's this one. Let me check. One of the articles says that there's a way to also consider like your padding and your spacing. Let me see. I don't know if it's this one. Let me check this one. Coming. Okay, I'm not sure if it's this one, but you can see that there are different sizes, like small mobile, average laptop, and that will also affect how you do your spacing too. I think in one of these articles, I can't remember which one of them. Design for thumbs. I'm coming. I want to check. Okay. All right. I'm not really seeing them here, but one of these articles, I went through it before. I've forgotten where it is. But they're saying things about having like flexible layout, basically, like your layout should be flexible. That's what I'm trying to say. So let's just go back to Framer. So this is tablet. And we can create another variant and we can call this one mobile. As I said, in mobile, you will not want to have this kind of navigation. So what that means is that you probably want to, what you do in mobile is that you have to like hide this thing. So just click on this thing and click on hide. And then for mobile, it's mostly like 395 or let's just make it like 395. 395. That's what's there. But what we can also do on mobile is we also need to add, okay, we can reduce the spacing from 40 to about let's say like 24 left, 24 right. Then we can also add a new component. We need like a what do they call that thing? That open and close stuff. Hamburger, yes. So for hamburger, let me see. Let me right click and find. Okay, insert. We'll just insert a particular like icon because that's what we usually use. Think let's find phosphor. Okay, I'm coming. I'm trying to let's insert a particular icon. Okay, this may take more time. I don't know if I have that much time, but I think we'll just come back to this place. We'll come back here because I have to create a different state for when it is opened. So I have to do that too. But while that was, let's just go back. We'll come back here. So we have done for this mobile and then, sorry, we have set up the component at least for desktop and for tablet. We'll come to mobile to take more time, but I'm trying to just say we can ration time so we don't waste too much time. So the next thing now is, let's assume that I've set up our style guide. So we know what our H1 is. And the way I did for like this H1, you can also do for your paragraph, like this one. We have done for button, I've done for navigation. You may also want to select each of them, for instance, and then you can begin to add, like, make styles out of them. So you can add this one as a style, create a new one, and like that, like that. You can do for all of them, basically. I hope that we understand the concept. So that when you now move it to different pages, for instance, it now becomes like responsive because it can switch. So let me just continue. So if you want to create like a different, like for a different device, you click on this plus that says breakpoint and you click on tablet or mobile, or you can have a custom breakpoint. As I said, it's mostly desktop, tab, and phone, which is like mobile. But some people actually do more than, some people do like 4 or 5. But most times to save you time and energy, if it works in that in 3 of these breakpoints, it most likely will work in all other breakpoints. So we'll just stick with the default one, tablet, and then we'll click on this plus again. Okay, sorry, that was to play. Let's go back. We'll click on this plus again here from the desktop. Okay. Oh, okay. This is an image, sorry. Okay. Why the new breakpoint? Basically, click on this plus here and then do for phone. So first things first. In our navigation here, we'll click on this one. We can see that automatically it actually switched to what? To tablet. And then let's see this one. It's still in tablet, so you select to mobile. So basically, the reason why it's not showing those things here is because on the mobile view, I've not added those things that I said I was going to add because, for the mobile view, you have to have like an open and a closed state. And because of time, that's why I've not really completed it. But the first thing is to first hide this one. Then we'll insert like an icon here, which is like that breadcrumb. We insert like an icon here, which is like the breadcrumb. And then we'll create a different variant for it, which will serve as like the different state for it, basically. Because of time, that's why I'm just trying to hurry. But let's just go back. We'll fix that later. So now we can see that this is our text. Because I said that our H1 should be this particular, like you get this 72. If you come here, medium is 40. So if you look at this one now, it's actually H1 that is applied to it. And then you see that it is automatically, it has picked the medium side, which is like 48. You can see it's selected medium by default. And if you come here, it's selected, let me see, you should select small by default. Edit it, you can see small is selected because of the device that it is. Another thing you also want to adjust is spacing. So you can see while 300 pixel, I think it's 300 is here. Okay, so 80 pixel works like this. On this thing on tablet, you don't want to use 80 pixel too because you don't have that much space. And that's why I adjusted it from the navigation. I made it to be 40, I guess. So you come here and you change your padding. You can make this one 40 and then make your left to 40. That way you have reduced the space and then there's more space. You can see that on your desktop, you don't want to, on your mobile, you don't want to also use 80/80. You will probably want to use like 24. Okay, let's see. Also, some of all these things are actually based on what you have designed and how you feel that design should work. So there are cases whereby you may want to stick with this 80 that is there, but obviously it doesn't work here. But it may work in some other use cases. So it depends on what you actually want. So in this case now, we can see that it works based on what we have. So you can see that this one works and then this one works basically based on what we have here. The reason why, okay, this one we can reduce a little bit because it's a little bit big. But as I said, if we had created like a style out of this one, automatically to adjust. But because we didn't, that's why it's still showing like 16. But mostly you want to change it, let's say like 14. Yeah, 14 looks okay. And our button also works. There are use cases whereby, for instance, assuming the buttons are buttons that fill like this entire box, you may want to put like underneath each other. So for instance, assuming this was set to this stack, let's say it was set to like fill container, and your button too was set to fill container too. In this case now, some people may want to say, okay, instead of it to arrange it like this, like left to right, why don't you put it up and down? So these are just different. So it depends on what you have in your design. You understand? But in this case, I feel like what we have works, like having them small like this, like it works. But if it's a use case whereby these buttons are big or they are large, you may want to put them like not just horizontally, but vertically. So I think that this works. Let me just click on display and let's see if it works. So you just test, let's click on play. So you can see this is the desktop. This is like a preview like view. And then when you begin to like move it, can you see that it's changing? This is what responsive design means. And then this is like your tablet view. As you can see, this is desktop. So it's moving. And then as you begin to reduce it, see that the font actually changes. And it's very obvious. In some cases, you may want to just, because of the way we did the font, you may want to make the font bigger so that the change is not so like abrupt like that. If you understand what I'm trying to say, like we move from like 72 to like 40 something, which is very, very wide. But if it was like 72 to like, let's say like 50 something, it will not be so obvious in that sense. And then you keep moving down. And then as you move down, you can see that this thing disappeared because that's responsiveness. Although we have not finished designing, but we can just get the idea. And then you move. And then this is everything basically. So that's how you design like responsively. So depending on how many sections that you have, assuming you have like 5 sections, you have to actually go into all those sections and begin to tweak them. And also another thing to note is that as you are making changes on the desktop version, it actually applies to the all the other like breakpoints. But if you make changes on this one, it doesn't apply, like it doesn't go backward, but it goes forward. So for instance, if I duplicate this thing, for instance, now, we can see that it has affected like all the screens. Let me undo. But if I duplicate this one here, you can see that it doesn't affect this one, neither does it affect this one. So that some changes will flow naturally from your desktop to your tablet to your mobile. But they will not flow backwards. Like they will not flow from your mobile to your tablet to your desktop. I'm just saying that it's important that you get your desktop right, because if you get it right, it means that you would have like a very good like experience both on tablet and on mobile. Because if you have adjusted it and everything works here, as you are tweaking it here, it's supposed to be affecting all the other screens. And that way you can make all your changes like across. Another thing that also helps with responsiveness is what they call maximum width. So there are some cases whereby you have like a particular website, it's just that it doesn't work in this scenario. But I can explain to us what I mean. So normally, based on your positioning and everything, there are some cases whereby you want it to be that anytime they stretch this screen, for instance, to the maximum size. Okay, let me just show what I'm trying to say. So now this is desktop. So now let's add a custom breakpoint. Let's make it to be like, let's say 19. Okay, let's say like 2024. I'm just using, let's say 20, okay. 2024, 2024. See what I'm trying to say. You can see that in this case, all our fonts, it has taken the entire width. Like you can see, it's trying to be responsive because that's the way I designed it. But there's some use cases whereby, for instance, you don't want this thing to be on one line. The reason why it's on one line here is because there's plenty space compared to here, that there's no plenty space. So you can see that there's plenty space here. What you can do is that you can set a maximum width. What that means is that it will only begin to grow onto a particular point. Once at a particular maximum width, what it will mean is that after that width, it will not increase again. Like to not increase again at all. It will just be what it is. So in this kind of case now, there's no maximum width, and that's why it is trying to fill up as much space as is available because we set it to fill container. But if you had a maximum width, for instance, and there's a min max here, and we had a maximum width of, let's say, like some people use like 1000 pixel, or let's just say maximum width, and we say it should be, let's say, will it apply here? Let me see if it's going to apply. Okay, no, this is minimum. Let's change it to is maximum width we want to add. Maximum width. I want to say to 80%. Can we see what is happening? So because of this box is also reducing, like this box size is reducing. So what that means is that let me just make it to be, let's say like let's make it to be 60%. What that means is that if you take this particular screen and you keep stretching it, you notice that at some point, okay, still adjusting. Come on, this example does not exactly work because our screen is from left to right. Let me delete it. Let's try a different one. Okay, let's try with this one instead. Okay, EU section stack. So this one, let's add the maximum with that. Let's add the maximum to this one. So let's make it to be let's make it to be a fixed maximum width of, let's say, so normally now is 1000 to, okay, let me see. For this entire box, 1200. Let's make it to be 800. Okay, let's leave it at 1200 so we can see if it's going to work. So let's play this. Normally, this is 1200, and this is the maximum width for this particular box. If you're going to scale it, like, can you see that this text is still on 2 lines? Because there's a maximum. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. But like this particular box, normally, if you look at the design that we had earlier, this line was now a straight line because there was no maximum width. Now we have applied maximum width, and you can see that it's still in the middle, like it's still from where we left it. I don't know if you get the analogy. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? I don't know if it makes sense. Can we hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah,
But do you
I
understand the
agree.
concept of maximum width? It doesn't really work with our design because it's a little bit, what's the word? It doesn't really work because the way we designed it is already on 2 lines. But do you get the concept like this? Let me try and see if I can open a website so you can see what I'm trying to say. Okay, let me go back to. Okay, yes. Can we see this footer that is here? Can we see the footer that is here?
Yes.
Assuming you look at this particular website, for instance, I'm using a 16-inch screen, but assuming you scale my screen to like, let's say like 24 inches, all of this content will be in the middle. As you can see here, can we see that there's a lot of space here? Now look at the space here, and then there's space here. It's because a maximum width was applied to all the elements in this, like in the middle. What that means is that irrespective of how you scale this website, all the content will always be in the middle. Even if you open this website on, let's say, on a flat screen, or let's say on a television, everything will still be in the middle like this because there's a maximum width that is applied already. I don't know if you understand. I don't know if it makes sense, but if you look at this spacing here, you can see
Yes.
there is spacing, a lot of spacing here, and all the content is in the middle. If you keep scaling, like if I reduce my screen size, all the content is still in the middle. Why? Because a maximum width has been said that, okay, it doesn't matter the screen size. Once you're on a desktop or higher than a desktop, keep all our content in the middle. So you can see now, my screen is like 16 inches. So, but assume this is 14 inches. Normally, this is the way it looks like. But if I keep scaling my screen, like moving it, you can see that all the content are now moving to the middle. Like it's not adjusting again. Do you understand? Like as I'm moving to everything's still stuck in the middle. That's because maximum it was applied. And so if you look at our use case here in this framer, normally okay, let's go back to our design. You will notice that the navigation does not have anything set there. So if I play this thing now, if I play it and I keep moving it down, can you see that navigation is there's no maximum width applied to it. So you can see that navigation is actually maintaining, like, is spacing it out, like all this space. But we can add a maximum width to say, okay, don't allow this space to be this wide. Stick to a particular space irrespective of the screen like size. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? I hope it makes sense. But we can see that
Yes, it does.
automatically it is being dynamic because there's no maximum width. But we can say that, okay, let's have a fixed size that irrespective of how large your screen is, let our navigation always be in the middle, just the way the website just opened this. In this case now, it is being responsive because of the way I set it up, that there's this space here is auto spacing. What that means is that it will just it will maintain this particular space irrespective of the screen size and be dynamically, like, adjusting to the screen size. So as you're increasing your screen size, this thing will be moving too. It doesn't matter if your screen size is, let's say, okay, this is the maximum because I'm using 16 inches, but if it was like 24 inches, it will still be from the same 80 pixels from the left and the same 80 pixels from the right. But if you give it a maximum width, it means that it will only be, let's say, for instance, 1000 pixel in the middle. So even if you scale it up like 2000 pixel of the screen, it will only be 1000 pixels. Just like this website here now. Everything here is still in the middle, even though my screen size is bigger. Like, you can see that all the boxes are in the middle. Meanwhile, normally on the normal, like, breakpoint of, like, let's say, like, on what they call it, let's say on a desktop, for instance, you can see that all these things, there's a particular spacing that is maintaining from. Look at the footer now. Okay, it's not adjusting. Okay, let me leave it like, okay, yeah. So as you can see here, there's a particular spacing that is within here and here. And if you don't have a maximum width, it will maintain this particular spacing, like, irrespective. But if you had a maximum width, it will just stay in the middle, like, it will maintain a particular position. So that if you scale it up like this, like, move it, there is still space here, but everything is in the center. Like, you can see, it's not more close to this place because there's maximum that is applied. I hope that we understand the concept. I hope that it makes sense. So I think that we'll just stop here. Hello, can you hear me? Are you saying something? Please, can you mute? Please mute. All right, okay, I'm muted. Okay. All right, but that's just the concept of maximum width. I hope that we understand. As I said, our design does not really like because of the way we designed it. Our text is already wide, so that's why. But if you can look at as I said, in this case now, if I add a particular breakpoint, let's just say call it 2024 and 2024 and see what I'm trying to say. So before I click on add, you will notice that this thing is still like the way it should work. Once I click on add this particular breakpoint, we can see that this particular size is not changing. And we can see that it has a maximum. It means that even if I make this screen, for instance, let's make it like 4000. So we can see it will still maintain this particular spacing. Like, we'll not adjust. Why? Because there's a maximum that's applied there. But for our navigation, there's no maximum width. It's just in auto, like automatically spacing. And that's why you can see that this one now is still maintaining 80 pixel. For instance, if I had a maximum width here, let's just have the maximum so you can see what I'm trying to say. Let's delete this one again. And then we can add the maximum width here. Make this to be. Please help us to meet. Please mute though, so that, okay, I've muted you already. All right. So basically, if I had a maximum width here and say that, let the maximum width, sometimes usually it's like 1000, 1200 pixel. Let's just use 1200 like it's here. So add a maximum width to be, let's say, a fixed to be 1200. What that means is that if I had a new breakpoint, for instance, let's add a new breakpoint, say 2024, and we'll see what I'm trying to say now. 2024, and click on add. Can you see that? Okay, let me see. In this case now, as I'm moving it, this is in the middle. It's because because of the settings, but you can see what I'm trying to say. Like, navigation is not changing, it's not trying to automatically adjust. It's just staying in the same position. If you add a background to this thing, it doesn't have a background. The background is white. If you change the background to black, you understand. So we can see this navigation is maintaining this same 1200 pixel. This box too is maintaining 1200 pixel. But because I set this thing to be it's not in the middle. is that I aligned it to the left. That's why it's still stuck at the left. But we can see that the width is still 1200 pixels. If I align to the middle, then it will be in the middle. But obviously, all these things will change. Like, I have to change all this. But I hope that we get the point. I'm saying that I added a maximum width of 1200 pixels to this one, and then it's aligned to the left. While for the navigation, it's supposed to be like in the center. So that's why it's like this. Like, and then it's not trying to scale up or scale down because there's a maximum width that is applied already. So I hope that we understand the concept of maximum width. I hope that we understand. So let me just delete this one and go back to what we are saying. Let's remove the maximum width because it doesn't really work in this design. So okay, let's just undo. Let me just undo what we had before. So basically, I'm trying to just undo here. Let me undo. So yes, I think that we can stop here. Based on we have done here, so we're in assignment. So yes, we are done with this particular like session for today. For anybody that joined late, please, you can come back and rewatch the video. So if you have questions that's something I've mentioned before, I will say just go and watch the video again. But if you have been following like so far and you have questions on what I've said so far, please can you let me know? Does anybody have any question based on what we have said so far? Does anybody have any question? I just done like what we discussed, but does anybody have any questions so far?
No, not from my end.
Okay, not from your end. Any other person, do you have any questions based on what we have said today that you joined, like from when you joined till now? Do you have any questions? This one nobody said anything. Okay, I assume that we don't have any questions. But basically, I've just tried to explain the basics of responsive design. What we looked at today, let me just go back. We looked at introduction to responsive web design. We tried to understand like style guides and how it works outside of Figma and inside of Figma. So I showed us a Figma, like the way it works in Figma and the way it works in Figma. Also, component library too. I explained to us what a component is, why we need to use a component, so it can help us with consistency and then efficiency, basically. I went to designing responsible, and what we did was that we did a mobile version of what the screen that we started last week. So you can look at our last week video. We started design actually last week. So we did the desktop, I've done the tablet, and I've done the mobile, and it works. Although for the mobile, I didn't finish navigation because of time. We're actually out of time. So I didn't do the navigation like for the mobile like view. I'll have done like a breadcrumb and I've added like an interaction whereby when you click on it, then it can open. Because of time, we'll stop here for now. So I want to believe that we understand what we have done so far and that it does make sense. So our assignment for the week will be that I want us to design a new website now. Not a new website, like a new hero section, different from what you submitted last week. But this time around, you design responsibly. So you do for desktop, you do for tablet, and you do for mobile. So you can create maybe for any business, anything that you have actually, anything. Create a new website and design responsibly, like design for desktop. Like let it work on both desktop, tablets, and mobile. And also when you are done, then you publish it. I noticed that for some of us, when we publish our website, we didn't change the name. So when you click on publish now, you can actually like change the name. So I've published it and let me just update and then I've published it. And then you can click on this particular thing here. Okay, just click on the website. I want us to adjust so we can change the name of this stuff. I'm coming, let me see. I want to show us how we can change the site, the settings basically. Let me see, where is that? Yeah. So under these settings now, we can change the name like our sites. Okay, let's go to domains basically. So for these domains now, you can update it. So I changed my own to design dive test, but you can change it to anything that you want to change it to. You can notice that for a lot of us, we use like default name that was there. You can remove it. Okay, let's see, remove it. They can add a new one. So just get a free framer domain. So that instead of us to have like all those long, Pepper something, or like those names, you can just call it like your name. Let's say Aisha, whatever. I just call this one design dive so that when one send the link, it can be something that is short and that makes sense, not just like a random link. So please, that's our assignment for next week. Or sorry, for this week we're entering. We're supposed to design a new section of a particular, let's say a landing page or a website. Do the navigation and the hero section, and then design responsively. Or should I make it to be two sections? So what do we think? Should we do hero section or hero section and that section? Which one? Which one do we want? Is hero section okay, or do you want to add two sections? I just want nobody's answering. Like, I mean, apart from this hero section, do you want to add a new section to it? Like, apart from hero, let's say, and that section, so that way we can do like two different sections. Let's say hero and about us. Okay, let's do two sections. So it makes us to tax ourselves. So as I said, we have hero section, we have navigation, hero section, and you can do a second section. It can be anything. So that we'll have like three sections, and then you design for desktop, for tablet, and for mobile. So that's our assignment for this week. Does anybody have any questions? This one, nobody's responding like this. Please, do you have any questions? Or we understand?
No question from my side at all.
Okay, okay. Aisha, do you have any?
None from my side as well.
Okay, that means that we understand. Okay, that means I thought very well. All right. As I said, so our assignment is simple in a way. We'll do a different website and we'll do the navigation, we'll do a hero section, we'll do another section. And we must design it to be responsive. That means that, for instance, if you look at this one that we have just done, is responsive actually. If you click on this, play the prototype. As you can see, as I'm dragging it, you can see that it's adjusting to Dex to tablet. As you can see, the name is changing here. So we are adjusting it to desktop. You can see this name here. Move it down. You can see that it's moving too. And the size has reduced because we changed like that to tablet. And then like that, like that. If you move it again to mobile, you see that. So you can see that in mobile too, phone, it also works too. Coming. So, let me. All right. So you can see like it's working on mobile compared to what some of us did last week. That if you look at it on mobile, it's still showing those three navigation. Nothing has changed. The font size, nothing not changed. So please, this is our assignment for this week. Thank you very much for joining. I really appreciate our time. I hope that we have learned at least one or two from what we have looked at today. Next week, we'll build up on this and we'll look at like interaction. So we didn't do anything like interaction, like any animation, anything like that, because we're still looking at the basics, looking at responsiveness. We'll look at interactions and we'll look at exploring other sections of a landing page, not just the hero section. We'll do that as part of our assignment this week, but we'll also look at it in more detail by next week. So thank you very much. If nobody has any other question, I think that we can call this meeting a wrap.